Hey guys, before I start the video, a quick announcement. I wanted to draw your attention to this Kickstarter project. You guys know that I have been a long friend and a fan of the celloist Vincent Belanger, especially the Rupture track. Well, in this Kickstarter project, he will be remaking this track. Myself and few other recording engineers will be recording it with the best analog gear. A full analog recording in a church with amazing acoustics in Montreal. This new Soundstage album is a must-try, I guarantee you, and this is a great chance to get a signed version. And for those of you buying a physical format like a CD or LP, I will also be sponsoring the Denafris Pontus 15th generation DAC so that Vincent can include it for a lucky fan along with a CD or LP purchase. Only a few more days before the Kickstarter is over, so make sure to take advantage and check out the link description below for the Kickstarter link. Hey guys, Jay here. So today we're talking about sound staging and imaging. Now, soundstage and imaging can break or make the experience for a lot of us, including myself. It's one of the most important things in a hi-fi system in my opinion. But if you ever heard audiophiles or reviewers like myself talk about soundstage, wide, deep soundstage, focus, pinpoint imaging, and you've ever wondered, what are they talking about? Well, don't worry, you're not alone. There's many of you out there that don't quite know what soundstage or imaging means or how to experience them. Maybe you are new to the hobby, or maybe you are an experienced audiophile but never really experienced soundstage and imaging like you wanted to. Whichever boat you may be in, by the end of this video, not will you only know exactly what soundstage and imaging is, you'll be able to experience it for yourself using some of the tips and tricks that I will share in this video. So make sure to watch this video to the very end. So let's start with sound staging. So sound staging is the space that you're in. So let's for a minute imagine that there's a live concert happening right in front of you, and there is the band, there's the guitar, the lead singer, the drum, and we have a full-on concert. However, is the stage above you? Are you sitting down and looking up at the stage? Or is the guitarist behind the singer or in front of the singer? How wide is the stage? How far away is the stage? How high is the stage? That is what the soundstage is, the space that the performance is taking place. Now, when you record and play back in your stereo system, the recreation of this space is what we're talking about when we talk about soundstage. So often than not, audiophiles or reviewers will talk about how wide the soundstage is. Now, for a lot of people, this is a bit weird because you either recreate the soundstage or you don't. But that's not really the case. Depending on the system, depending on the performance of the system, your room can be created into that stage itself. And how that soundstage sounds to you, how wide and deep it sounds to you, and how it's recreated in your room, because it's not the exact same space as the concert, will be different. If the system is really good, the soundstage will be wide and deep, just like the concert. But if it's not such a good system, then it may be a bit more narrow and more intimate of a soundstage. In a really good system, I find that the soundstage stretches past the speakers, making a wide soundstage, letting me hear instruments past the point of the speaker setup. Same thing goes for the depth of the soundstage, how far the singer is from you, how far the instruments are from you. And this gives you an illusion that you are sitting in a venue and the concert is taking place a few feet away from you. After all, you want to create that illusion experience that you are at a live venue, live concert. If that's the end goal, having a constricted soundstage that sounds too intimate where the guitar sounds like it's right in front of you, in like literally right by your face, isn't the ideal soundstage we might be looking for. Now, can you overdo it? Absolutely. I've had times where the soundstage was too far away for my liking. It almost felt like, the guitar was too far, like I was sitting at the most inexpensive, the most budget seat. That's not the experience I personally want. I want to be in the sweet spot of the concert, and that means that the depth of the soundstage has to be not too far, but not too close either. The idea here is to create a more realistic space of this concert experience. Another factor is the height of the soundstage. And what that really means is that, well, not all concerts are made equal, and you'll know exactly what I mean if you've ever been to a live concert. There's concerts where you're looking up at the stage, and there are concerts where you're eye level with the stage. So it depends on what kind of experience you want. Some of my friends want to experience the stage a little bit above their eye level, so that it feels like you're looking up at the stage. This gives them a more natural feeling of being at a concert they used to go. While for myself, really I like it at eye level, meaning I want the singer right in front of me, not really above me, so that I feel like I have to kind of look up to the singer. So now let's say that you've established that you value soundstage just like me. You value the fact that you can hear things to the side of the speakers, more depth, and give you this 3D like lifelike experience as if you were at the concert. Well, perfect. But how do you actually optimize your system to make sure you get the soundstage you want? Well, there are a few things that you can do. One is very simply pull a speaker from the wall behind it if you can. Honestly, this is one of the best advice I can give you. Now, I know that a lot of people may not be able to pull their speakers 3 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet out of the wall, but the more you can, the better the soundstage will be. And unfortunately, that's simply physics. You create a space behind the speakers so that you can get the depth of the soundstage. This is the easiest way to go about it. Because let's face it, when you put the speakers too close against the wall, not only are you not allowing the speakers to have enough breathing room so that it can have the space to try to mimic the space that it's trying to recreate, but you also have a good chance of that bass being a little bit bloated and overtaking the mids and the high frequencies, which in turn muddies up the soundstage. Another tip of getting a great soundstage is to place your speakers a little bit toed out towards your room. There's often kind of the immediate feel that you have to point your speakers directly towards you, directly towards your ears. But play around with it, because 9 out of 10 times I found that toeing the speakers slightly away from your ears towards the room gives you a large and bigger soundstage. This is mainly due to the fact that not only are you hearing sound directly from the speakers, but you're hearing these sounds bouncing off the walls. And by increasing that, you get the sense of this bigger soundstage. My rule of thumb is to start by pointing the speakers directly at me and start toeing it out towards the room slightly on both speakers and go back and forth until I feel like the soundstage and the imaging, which we'll talk about in a minute, is exactly to my satisfaction. Now, once you've done that, there are other things that you can do to optimize the soundstage. Now, there are gears that's known to do some things very well. For example, Class D amplifiers are known to have really massive power for the amount of money you pay and the form factor, and there are tube amplifiers that are known for their soundstage. But it doesn't have to be just a tube amplifier. You can even do a tube preamplifier or a tube integrated amplifier, or even a hybrid amplifier like the Billyamp Mark II that I reviewed a while back. It really depends on how much soundstage you want, and again, you can overdo it, in my opinion. So it really depends on how far you want to take that. Nevertheless, I'll link to some of the products that I personally think has great soundstage in the description below so you can check it out. Now let's talk about imaging. First of all, what is it? Imaging is like the pinpoint accuracy of where the instruments are within the soundstage given. So let's say your soundstage is this wide and this deep. And within that soundstage, do you hear the guitar exactly where it's supposed to be? Do you hear the singer where it's exactly supposed to be? And are you able to pinpoint where those instruments are? Because oftentimes, when the soundstage is way too large, and some tube amplifiers are known for this, you get a wide and deep and holographic 3D-like soundstage that's coming from everywhere, but you just can't quite pinpoint where they're coming from. And don't get me wrong, there's no right or wrong way to enjoy your music. Some of my friends enjoy a holographic 3D-like wide and deep soundstage, but they don't really care about the imaging as much. Imaging is the sense of being able to depict where the instruments and the singers are and how focused that imagery is. Think of it like a camera lens, how focused and how sharp the lens is when it's in focus. That's kind of what imaging is. A prime example of this, and something that many of you might have experienced for the first time when you set up a stereo system, is that phantom center down the middle, where you set up a left and right speaker, but somehow the music and the voice seems to come right between the speakers. And that is called center imaging. Now, side imaging and other imaging factors are things like instruments to the side, left, how far away is it from the singer and how exact is it? Are you able to feel the strings coming from that exact same position constantly? And stuff like this pertains to accuracy. So some people like it really focused, some people like it somewhat focused, and some people don't really care about it at all. But at the end of the day, that's what imaging is. Now, can you overdo imaging? In my opinion, absolutely. If you don't like it's too much of a focused, kind of imaging, it almost feels unnatural, like a, really sharp DSLR camera that doesn't seem to have exactly that smoothness of a cinema camera, for example. So it really depends on your taste and what you're looking for and how focused you want that imaging to be. Now, there are definitely things that you can do to optimize imaging. Just like sound staging, you can do it by placing the speakers a little bit more towards your ears. And you might be thinking, well, isn't that exactly the opposite of the setup I recommended for soundstage production? And you're absolutely right. So it's a balance. The more you tow it towards your ears, the better imaging you'll get. And the more you tow it out towards your room, the more soundstage you'll get. So you have to find a sweet balance where it gives you the imaging that you want and also the soundstage depth and width that you're looking for. There are also speakers and gear that is inherently great at imaging. For example, there are dual concentric drivers or single drivers where the source of the sound is coming from this one point source, and that tends to give you a more focused imagery and a more exact, accurate imagery. And if you value imaging, you might be more into Class D amplifiers or solid-state amplifiers that tends to have really good focus and accuracy and edge to the instruments and vocals, whereas tube amplifiers may be a little bit more hazy in that regard. So at the end of the day, it's really about the balance between the two, soundstage and imaging. Even though they're both valued by many audiophiles, you can't really have maximum of one while you have the maximum of the other. Meaning you can't have the widest and the deepest soundstage while having the most focused imagery as well, or at least in theory. Now, I've heard systems, really high-end systems, that does both really, really well to where it feels like it's really accurate imaging and really wide and deep soundstaging. But I guarantee you, if the designer or the system setup was catered towards one thing, max soundstage, then imaging would suffer while the soundstage would be even bigger and wider. So vice versa. It's a trade-off. But once you've set the system up perfectly for your taste in soundstage and imaging, you'll be able to hear things that you've never heard before. Test out these tracks. For example, the Pink Floyd's Time, a classic. Listen to the clocks ticking around you. Absolutely incredible and gives you goosebumps. Try some Draft Punk. Why not? Notice the instrument placements in the build-up. And my favorite, Dire Straits' Sultan of Swing. Perfect for experiencing spatial clarity in guitars, in my opinion. Now, while it's very possible to get some nice decent soundstage and imaging in a non-treated room, it's absolutely also true that room acoustic treatment, like acoustic panels, can definitely help with soundstage and imaging. While I understand that it's not for everyone, that not everyone can have acoustic panels that is hanging in their living room, it's important to realize that it can and definitely will help imaging and soundstaging when you do have some acoustic treatment. However, I highly suggest not overdoing it. Overdoing it and over-deadening your room with a bunch of acoustic panels and kind of soundproofing it, so to speak, is not the way. That will make the soundstage really narrow and way too intimate while making the imaging really laser focused sharp. And that's probably not really natural for your brain because you're not creating that sense of space that your speakers are supposed to. So what do I recommend? Well, I recommend that you use some acoustic absorption panels to help with imaging accuracy as well as the soundstage to some degree, but also consider diffusion as well. I'm personally using quadratic diffusers as you can see here, but there are many different types of diffusers and they essentially work the same way by scattering different frequencies into your room and giving you a sense of space that's bigger than your room actually is. And that's exactly what you want if you want to improve the spaciousness of the soundstage presentation. Lastly, it's important to realize the recording that you're playing back into your system. No matter how well you have your system set up for soundstage, if the recording you're playing doesn't really have that capability, it just won't give you the soundstage and imaging that you're looking for. And shameless plug here, once again, we are doing the Songe project with Vincent Belanger, so consider backing the Kickstarter project. We'll be at a church, recording it live, especially paying attention to that soundstaging and imaging. And I'll be flying to Montreal next week to record this album. But not just the Songe album. Virtually any recording it really depends on how it's recorded and how it's mixed and mastered. If it's not recorded and mixed and mastered well to recreate that soundstage, then, well, if it's not in the recording, it doesn't matter how great your system is set up for soundstage and imaging, it just won't have that soundstage and imaging that you're looking for. Finally, soundstage and imaging can, for a lot of people, including myself, break or make the experience. It's, after all, giving you that illusion of that immersion into this space that you are hoping to be in. Whether it's a live concert, live venue, or a private concert, the feeling of being in a space that you're actually not in, an illusion, taking you away from the daily hustles and daily kind of struggles, just placing you in a place of tranquility, all by yourself with the musicians and music that you love. And perhaps that's exactly why many of us audiophiles really chase for that amazing balance between soundstage and imaging that makes us happy and gives that absolute illusion of being lost in the music. So that's it from me, but let me know in the comment section what your first experience with soundstage and imaging was like, and what gear, speakers, or music pieces enhanced your soundstage and imaging in your system. Sharing is caring after all, so make sure to share in the comment section, share some tips with me, and I'll very much appreciate that. So thanks for watching, make sure to subscribe, click the like on this video, and I'll see you guys on my next one. Thank you for joining me today, and until next time.